Hi, I'm Rabyah and I've been living in Ireland for over a year and a half. I recently received two of my friends in another city and they had too many questions, and that just got me thinking that everybody faces different sets of struggle, but if you can learn from not only your own mistakes but also others, you will save yourself tons of trouble. So I'll try to answer all of the questions to the best of my abilities. So stick around till the end. Question number one was how I ended up in Ireland. It's a little story time. I was in my house job when I took my English proficiency test. The only problem was that I thought that I was meticulous enough, but the results came out 2 days later than the day that you could get a seat for PLAB. I was actually initially planning to take my PLAB exam while I was in my intern year, but because I couldn't get my test reports in time, the test result actually came late, so I couldn't get a seat, right? And then everybody started to say, oh, you can just wait around and you'll get seats, like some people cancel at the last minute or whatever. One thing about me is that I cannot leave things hanging. I just couldn't imagine myself waiting around, refreshing the screen every hour of the day just to get a seat, and I was like, oh, that's too much of a trouble. Plus, I don't know what people think of PLAB and what they are expecting out of it is, but it's just a licensing exam. It does not guarantee you anything. But anyway, that's still a step forward to something. So, but then again, that year, one of my family friends went to Ireland, and that's how I was like, oh, well, through general registration, and that's how I actually had that as an option. But to be honest, I did my research, and my main goal of moving out of Pakistan was to train. But then again, so USMLE was out of question because I wanted surgery, and just doing steps was never going to be enough. So that's why I postponed the idea of doing a USMLE for my training, at least for the starting years. UK was the second option, and then I couldn't get the seat. I didn't want to wait around, so I knew that one of my family friends went to Ireland recently with general license, but the problem was that he went on a GP scheme. I think it was 5 years ago. They had like a scheme where they were hiring people with experience as GPs right away without any further like requirements. If you had experience, you would just be hired. But so I was like, okay, fine, we could do that. I have the IELTS, and that was it was like I had enough bands on it to be eligible for Ireland anyway. So I was like, all right, we'll do it. So I started to do my research. Now his pathway was a bit different because he went through the scheme and everything, but like still, it took him 4 months to get his license, right? And I was like, okay, well, that's actually, good enough. Like, you'll get the license in 4 months, you find a job in another 4, and then you'll be able to fly out in a year's time or something like that. So I completed my house job in April 2022, and then in May I applied to get an experience certificate from PMDC, which I've explained in another video. And then that PMDC letter, I think it took them 25 days. So I ended up applying, and then meanwhile I applied for my Epix account, paid their fees, got registration, uploaded my degree, got that verified, and then, oh god, it was Fatma Jinnah's administration is like I think admin anywhere would be a hassle to work with. But anyway, that took me 2 weeks to get my MBBS degree verified with Epic, and eventually got my experience certificate. So I uploaded that. It took them at least a week, and it was good to go. I applied through, and I think my whole application went through on the 28th of June 2022. And then at that moment, the people who were applying and getting the license were saying that it was taking them roughly 6 to 8 months. And I was like, well, fair enough, okay, 4 to 5 or like 6 to 8 doesn't make much of a difference. But while I was waiting, 6 months passed and nothing happened. And then eventually after 6 months, they got through me and they said, okay, fine, we need this, you can upload the rest of the documentation, pay the fee, blah blah blah. And then another 5 to 6 months, and I was like, oh gosh. But So that's how it is. So 5 to 6 months later, they got through me saying that, okay, fine, I'm eligible for it. They sent me the gen form. I uploaded that, paid the extra fees, or I think 5-6 euros or something. And then for a month later, I actually got my registration. So it took me exactly 13 months. I got one objection because I knew that actually, and I had emailed them before. When I got my IELTS, I did IELTS, general IELTS. When I got my IELTS TRF, which was the test report form, they had my birth date wrong on it. When I got the report, I did tell them that my birth date is wrong, and then they go, oh well, it's okay, but like whenever you apply, you'll have your CNIC and your passport with it. It has the right birth date and everything. And I was like, oh, do you think it's gonna work? And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. No, it was a problem. They got through me and they were like, even if you do not get a new one made, right, we still need confirmation from the British Council that they know and they are accepting that a mistake has been made. Oh my God, it took me exactly a month to get through to British Council, ask them to just give me an email. I wasn't even asking them to make me a new test report form, but Pakistani British Council, I think maybe, I don't know, I don't think it's Pakistani, but anyway. But oh God, it was a hassle. I think I called them at least 20 times back and forth, and then eventually they said, oh yeah, the problem was from our side, so we don't send in emails accepting our mistakes, so you have to send in the report form. We'll see, we'll change it, issue a new one and send you that. It took me more than a month. So in total, six months of initial assessment, then 4 months of secondary assessment, 1 month of objection, and I had to send them a new one. And then exactly 5 weeks after Gen Form, so in total it was roughly 13 months, and I got my license. Question number 2, why I chose Ireland. Again, I kind of did answer it before, but I did start to prepare for USMLE when I was in 3rd year, so that I could take my step 1 after 4th year's professional exam and be done with it. But while I was preparing for it and looking up things, I realized that surgery is actually quite difficult to get in, and it requires more than just steps. Obviously, I just didn't know how to go about the rest of it, and the cost would have been also a problem for me, so I dropped the idea of doing USMLE at that moment. And Ireland was actually never an option initially. The remaining 2 options were Australia and UK. UK had 2 options for me, which was taking PLAB, getting NCHD and just going about it, or doing an MRCS and, taking the leap. Australian exam, I didn't go for it because I knew that I'll have to go to Australia to take the exam. That's what I was told initially. I didn't even bother looking it up, and I was like, okay, that's not possible, and I'm not going through the hassle of going to another country just to take an exam. It's just too much for me. I can prepare and take the exam, no problem, but oh God, visa and blah blah blah, oh God, these extra things were never really my cup of tea anyway. And then UK exam, I already said that why I didn't take it. So the last option was Ireland, and I was like, something is better than nothing. I did look up the training posts and how to get into training, but then again, they have very strict criteria. They're not that easy going when it comes to offering trainings to immigrants, or in general actually. We will talk more about it in another video, because this is not the question. What I would do different if I were to reapply for my license again. Number 1, I will apply early. I did not know that you could apply early and then just keep on sending the documents later on. Lack of information was definitely a problem. That is the reason why I'm leaving it here, so that somebody who's going through the same thing might actually not, and if somebody can get help, they should. So number 1 was that I'll apply early. I will apply in my intern year while I'm working in Pakistan. and then just keeping track of my documentation and sending them meanwhile, because it's taking too long. The documentation verification comes only in the secondary assessment, so it's going to take you another 6 to 8 months anyway to get to that point. So they'll ask for documentation, and within that amount of time you can just get the documentation made, like your experience certificate, your degree, your transcript, and stuff like that, whatever they offer. I think now they have made changes to it. They even with the certificate of experience that you get from PMDC, they will, in the secondary assessment, they will send you a form to fill in all the details of the 4 rotations that you've done in your intern year. They have made changes to that because I think the programs are different, and how we go about it is different, and how we are trained in intern years in different specialties is obviously very different. So they have to know if you're capable of it. But more or less, I think all of the rotations that Pakistani hospitals offer, they are accepted here in Ireland, with the way they work and the way they assess if the intern is good to go. So but that's one different thing that I didn't do, but now they are asking people to fill in a new form. So what you should know before applying for the IMC license is, how long is it going to take? Are you okay with waiting for that amount of time? And what you should be doing meanwhile. When I started, it was 6 to 8 months, but when I got my license, it went up to 13 to 15 months of time, and recently it's been taking 15 to 20 months just to get a license. Too long, to be honest, in my opinion. But well, if you have no other options, why not? What you should be doing meanwhile, and what I did while I was waiting for my license, was that I started to prepare for MRCS, because I already had or was supposed to get a license for a European country. Taking PLAB and getting a GMC didn't make much of a sense to me. The only plausible option that I felt like at that time, which I would still suggest people, that was the right decision on my part to do, was preparing for MRCS. I took my MRCS while I was in Pakistan, and I think by that time I had my secondary assessment done, and I was waiting for my Gen Form, and it took me 3.5 months. I would say that you could give it like 4.5 months to prepare, just so you're not stressed out. I was actually stressed out by the end of it, but it took me 3.5 months to pass my MRCS Part A. I got my license. It took me 5 months to get my first job. I got my license in July 2023. Got my first job at the last week of December, so like early 2024, and I moved to Ireland in March 2024, and I've been working ever since. Well, so that was a little story. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.